did a game on their first evening together, almost to caricature the kind of girl she considered appropriate to him. She had cast Maggie as a duenna figure, a most unlikely role. That established, and Richard, who stayed with an aunt when he was in London, having no alternative accommodation to offer, it was possible to cut short dangerous good-night drinks. Richard would clearly have welcomed bed if it had happened, but would not manoeuvre for it too openly unless encouraged. Would not, for instance, suggest a hotel until the first steps in an affair had been taken. But Elizabeth's uncharacteristic decorum had created problems instead of dispelling them. What had begun on Richard's side as an attempt at a holiday flutter with someone he had supposed to be conveniently ill-behaved was becoming serious. Without meaning to, she had driven the hook home, and now he had asked her to spend a weekend in the house behind the hill in the painting. "Can it be that the landed gent is seriously épris?" Maggie had asked. "Oh, don't be silly. If you live in the wilds, the only way you can see people is by having them to stay. It's no more significant than dinner parties are for us." But it was clear to her that this time it was more than that. They drove down on Friday afternoon. When they arrived, she found that she was seeing the house as Maggie would have seen it, admiring its proportions and the texture of its Georgian brickwork as though she were on a conducted tour of a stately home, hearing Maggie's "Good Lord, how many people do they have to cut the grass?" when she looked out of her bedroom window over the sweep of lawn. There was running water in her room, but she saw the Italian housemaid taking a brass can into Richard's, and in the bathroom there was a Turkey carpet and mahogany casing round the tub. She saved these things up to exaggerate later, with the one glass of sweet dark sherry before dinner, and the talk about dogs, and the garden fete to raise funds for the Conservative Party. But at the same time, it was all so like her own grandparents' house that even the smells, beeswax in the passages, roses and potpourri in the drawing-room, dog biscuit and gumboots in the back hall, made her feel at home. She smoked less than usual, said the right things in the right way or kept silent, and put on flat shoes the next morning. She was the only person to know that she was out of place, and to give a sign of it, as honesty demanded, became more difficult every minute. She could as easily have picked up the potpourri bowl, a Chinese punch bowl, 18th century, decorated for the European market. No one had ever bothered to know as much about our grandmothers, and smashed it on the floor. "I'm making too much of it," she thought. "I'm inventing the gulf between us out of some kind of vanity. It's only that they live in the country and I live in London, that they have capital and land while I have no money but my earnings. Our circumstances are different, but we're not creatures of a different kind. There's no need to go into disguise." But still, and largely because this was true, she continued to lie low. It was so comfortable, so pleasant in many ways so right to be breathing that air again. To have disturbed it would have offended her more than it would have offended Richard and his parents. On Saturday, mild entertainment was provided for her. The doctor brother and his wife over to lunch, a cocktail party in the evening. She had always sulked at the cocktail parties of her years at home, but this, which might have been one of them, began by seeming delightful. There were two pleasures in it: waiting for people to come in on their cues and rejoicing when they did, or catching at the unexpected things, the nonconformist words or attitudes, as though she could carry them back to London and say, "There, you see, they're not all like you imagine. They are real people." Soon she realized that the talk all over the room kept coming back to one subject: the proposed establishment of a prison without bars on a stretch of coast about 8 miles away, against which, she gathered, Richard's father was campaigning.